The clock has started on the Buffalo Sabres. Could this be the longest 10 minutes that we ever do as a podcast?
Jesus.
I mean,
That's mean.
I want Sabres fans to watch this and not think we're picking on them.
oh, well, we're not picking on Sabres fans.
No, but we're
The
talking
Pagulas
about,
might want to think that we're picking on them.
we're trying to preview their season, and it's not a good start when I'm scouring their cap friendly and I'm trying to find something nice to say.
Can I start with something?
Please.
Go ahead.
Aaron Dell has looked terrible in the preseason. But
That's not a good start.
Dustin Torkarsky has looked great.
Potential for a really great story there.
I think we have a story here building with the Sabres goaltending situation where Torkarsky takes the net from Dell.
I'm glad we're recording the Atlantic last, because my whole thing with them is their plan to seriously go into the season with Craig Anderson and Aaron Dell, 40-year-old Craig Anderson and Aaron Dell, who I guess is his backup? The answer, no. It's 40-year-old Craig Anderson and Dustin Tokarski, who hasn't really been in the league for a while, but played for them last year, was fine, and he's having a good preseason. There's a start.
Right? See, there you see. Trust me.
A glimmer of hope.
We landed somewhere nice with the Sabres, and I think, we thought we had two goalies here, but it looks like we have one goalie and a different goalie, which is positive because there's some growth there from a guy who he's not going to grow further because he's getting up there in age, but maybe it's a good story.
We're not going to focus too much on the Jack Eichel situation because, frankly, by the time you watch this, it may have been solved. We do know this. As of this recording, there are reports out there that they're starting to share the medical records and that the trade is starting to maybe happen and that maybe Pat Brisson, his agent, has been granted opportunities to go and call teams and say, hey, are you interested? Can we facilitate something? So we'll leave it there.
It's too difficult.
We got to leave it. We got to go with the Sabres. What are the Sabres right now? Well, the first line is Skinner, Middlestat, Olsen.
This is according to Daily Face.
Yeah, this is, and then Asplund, Gergensons, Hinostroza, then Bjork, Anders Bjork, Dylan Cousins, Tage Thompson.
Here, I'd like to say something nice.
Please.
Hinostroza. I wanted the Leafs to get him. He's good.
He is good.
Good for them.
And then lastly, Drake Kajula, Arttu Rustalainen, and Kyle Okposo, who is still hanging around too. So, Steve has said many times this offseason, the Sabres need to have NHL players in the lineup. I'm looking throughout the lineup, and these are clearly not superstars. Clearly.
But they got guys.
But they are guys that have played in the game before.
But my problem with their lineup is too many of those names are their future and their prospects. Too many. There are not enough guys that are, like we said, NHL guys to clog up the system, so you don't have to be playing guys like Kozin and Middlestat. These guys shouldn't be at the NHL right now playing for this terrible team. They should be developing somewhere in a lower league.
One thing we've talked about is COVID disrupting the development of players. Middlestat, the disruption of his development started long before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been in the minors for longer. And Cousins, oh God, you really gotta thank
He
goodness
shouldn't be your
Owen
second-
Power's going to school. And it's
That's not your second line center.
I mean he's something. He could be really good, but if it goes south, they need to be prepared to send him to the minors or something, because you cannot assassinate a player who could be really special for you. You can't assassinate their confidence.
On defense, Rasmus Dahlin and Henry Yokiharu. So, Jesse, you had something you wanted to say about Yokiharu, right?
Oh, great player.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the prospects. I look at this team and I'm like, there are some guys who have a lot of potential here, and Yokiharu is one of them. I just wish he could go through his development.
Do you know how he became a Sabre?
No.
They traded Alex Nylander for him. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, good for them. Good pick.
Yeah.
Good pickup. That would have been the other guy, right? Pre-Kevin Adams?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bugner?
Might have been Botterill.
Oh, Botterill. Okay. Rasmus Dahlin actually signed an extension, so somebody is being nailed down in Buffalo.
He stayed there. He had sometimes we lean into a team who has a nightmare season, and from the outside it looks like they got worse. I mean, Jack Eichel they'd never really had last season. For God's sake, though, losing Sam Reinhart is huge. But on a team full of guys who had nightmare seasons, Rasmus Dahlin was it was the Saw trilogy. Like, it was awful. And he's a special talent. So if he takes a step if they get a few saves, and if Cousins has a breakout season, they'll be at least, I mean, let's be honest, still near the bottom of the standings, but they'll be respectable.
When you have a team like this, and I know this, Steve knows this, Jesse knows this, you know this if you're a Leaf fan, or if you've ever seen your team sink to the very bottom of the standings, which we have in the life of this podcast. One of the things that you learn on a season like this, and Sabres fans unfortunately have not had enough of this because they've been near the bottom for a long, long time. But when it does start to turn around, one of the things about being in last place is you focus less on the team result and more on individual players that you can kind of cheer for. You know, for us, I mean, I remember being like, man, Daniel Winnick's having a great year.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure. For sure.
So that was kind of cool, right? And you know, they were able to move James Reimer and Roman Polak for 2 seconds or something at the trade deadline to San Jose. And
you laser focus on those guys.
Yeah,
what's the result?
What's Michael Grabner going to do? Is he going to turn it around? Is Brad Boyes, you know, we drafted him. He scored 40 goals once. Like, what's he going to be?
Taylor Hall had the Michael Grabner shooting percentage.
Oh, yeah, like 1% on Buffalo
year.
last year. The one guy, there's a couple of guys on this team, especially on defense, that I think, first off, trade deadline bait. Second, great story if they're able to turn it around. So the Colin Miller story is interesting because that's a guy who was highly touted coming from Anaheim. When they traded for him, they really expected him to be a legitimate right shot defenseman in their top 4. He's in their top 4. Whether or not it's been legitimate has been questionable, and it's been interesting to see what happened since he got there.
It's been a scratch at times too.
Yes, yeah, on the Sabres. So you wonder
everywhere.
You wonder where he's going to go with that because he has the talent. Mark Pisik, who is a analytics darling, or at least was, doesn't seem to be able to find a spot where, like,
not anymore. Not anymore. And then he
not analytics darling anymore.
I mean, who was on the Sabres, right?
Yeah.
No, but he needs, again, they have NHL players.
They do, and the last one. And this is the most important one. This is the one I really wanted to highlight. I think Pisik could turn it around and be interesting if Colin Miller does. Although after a few seasons, you do start to wonder. Will Butcher.
Yep.
That 2017, wasn't he part of that 2017 team with the Devils and Taylor Hall? And, you know, or at least he came in the next year or whatever, and he was gangbusters. Like, that guy was.
I think we spoke about this in the Devils preview, but the Devils had to pay the Sabres to take him. Just to get him off the books. They had to throw in a draft pick and retain salary. So the bar isn't high right now for Will Butcher.
No, and
he wasn't part of the 17
for the Devils,
team.
that's because they had to clear the room. If you're going to be bad, you might as well not be paying your team a lot of money, which you can at very least say about the Sabres. Not so much the Devils. 2 guys I got my eyes on. Jeff Skinner, you make $9 million for God's sake. You
got a pot 20.
Feed him the bare minimum. Yeah. Like, I mean, Sam Reinhart had 25 goals somehow last year. You gotta play Jeff Skinner on the first line. You have to. I don't care how much you dislike him. You have to shove that square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
You have to figure that out and get him as close to a player that he once was as possible. And the other guy, I think a lot of guys are going to have their eyes on account of he was traded for Taylor freaking Hall, is Anders Bjork.
Yes.
There's going to be some pressure there. And for him, a guy who didn't have the biggest role on the Boston Bruins on account of they're the Boston Bruins, what a golden opportunity for him to prove his worth.
Yeah.
The Sabres don't seem like they help themselves with the way they play their players because, like you were saying, Jeff Skinner was very much down the line. He was on the 4th line for a lot of last year. And Dahlin plays these 25-minute games when he probably shouldn't be out there for that long because he hasn't reached that point in his career. And I hope that this year they take a look at their lineup and they play the guys where they should, and they put them in positions where they can succeed, like Skinner on the first line. You shelter all of your young guys with NHL-proven guys ahead of them in the lineup. But I hope that that's what they take out of the season. Just, hey, we're going to give everybody a chance here to succeed.
Last thing I'll say about the Sabres, the roster you said from Daily Faceoff, come American Thanksgiving, it's nothing like that.
Right, it'll change. There will be some waiver claims and things like that.
Waiver claims, trades.
Get some bodies in there.
Yep. So let's do the projections then, guys. I think we're probably going to be unanimous on this, but where do they finish in the Atlantic, Jesse?
I have them surprisingly dead last.
I said as many nice things as I humanly possibly could, and last.
Dead last for me as well. Not really a surprise. Probably the expectation. Hopefully Eichel is solved, and the time is up on the Sabres.